For today, we are taking a look at another book by Anne Rice. Who is surprised by this? Nobody. It is The Vampire Armand. This is book number 6 in the Vampire Chronicles, though if you include New Tales of the Vampires, it's actually book number 7. And as you might expect from the title, it is the origin story of Armand. David Talbot approaches Armand and wants to hear about his life story, but unlike what he did with Pandora, where he just left a notebook and a pen and just let her choose whether she wanted to write down her story or not, he is physically present with Armand while writing the story down. At least I remember. I'm pretty sure I remember that to be the case. And yeah, this is the story of this messed up kid's life. I'm not just saying that because I'm not fond of Armand as a character. I will admit I'm not fond of him. But really, this kid went through some tough shit. Seriously. The book begins with him having been sold into slavery after having just been abducted from his home in Russia, all the way up to our modern time, from right after the events of Memnoch the Devil. And for much of his life after his abduction, he was actually involved with Marius. He was a quote-unquote slave in Marius's household, but he was a favorite of Marius. The other slaves, just did whatever Marius told them, but Marius took special care to make sure Armand was very well educated, very well off, more so than the other boys. Marius cared about Armand in his own way. I would agree that there may have been some choices Marius made in regards to Armand that I'm personally not fond of, that may have partially contributed to how Armand turned out as a character, but it wasn't the only factor. There was a lot of stuff that Armand went through, some of which we already know, and you may already know if you've already read Interview with the Vampire and or The Vampire Lestat, because that stuff is in there, some of that stuff. I would say, just like The Vampire Lestat, it touches on stuff that either you didn't already know about Armand, or you knew in much lesser detail. Alright, so any of the stuff that you already knew about, that you already experienced through Louis in Interview with the Vampire and through Lestat in The Vampire Lestat, that's only glossed over if mentioned at all. And you get the details of the other things that happened with Armand in between all of that, before, after, all that jazz. You get to witness, the education Armand received under Marius. I say education in quotations because, depending on what you're referring to, that was debatable. And the time he spent with Santiago and this cult of vampires that he was in charge of, and then the events that took place around the Théâtre de Vampire in France from his point of view. And you get to learn a few things about what happened during Interview with the Vampire that you saw only from one angle, but now that you learn about Armand's angle of it, you realize, there's some things in there that you're kind of like, okay, I still don't like it, but I understand. Now, although I wasn't fond of Memnoch the Devil and the events that occurred in that book, I felt like so far this is the one book that focused on the effects of those events more than the other ones I've read. And this one, it made a lot of sense how Armand was affected by it. In terms of Lestat, he wasn't as connected to religion or spirituality compared to Armand. I can understand how it affected Armand on a psychological level. I would say the quality of the writing is about the same as Pandora. There's more to it, kind of like The Vampire Lestat. So it's a bit of a beefier book. There's more stuff to it. I wish Pandora was this thick. It's a decent book. Because I'm not too fond of Armand as a character, And again, there wasn't too strong of a focus on the vampire side of things because there was a lot of focus on his time as a human. I don't have a really high rating for it, just out of my own personal preferences. If I liked Armand more, I would probably say the book would be 3.5 or 4 stars. As it stands right now, it is a 3-star book. It is a good book, not a great book, it's a good book. I understand Armand better as a character, even though I'm still not fond of him, but I can understand based on his experiences how he turned up as messed up as he is. I forgot about most of what this book entailed, so I didn't even remember much about the end of it, though I could kind of guess as to what was going to happen. I did like his interactions with these 2 young mortals that helped him out after a certain event that occurred in the story that's described in this book, which is also in connection to what happened in the events of Memnoch the Devil. I'm not going to talk about it because it's a spoiler, but I think in a way that partially helped to redeem him in my mind, and that also partially involves the ending, which, you know, I'm lukewarm about. Still, I don't really think the ending could have happened any other way, though. It definitely was a suitable ending, even if it was something I wasn't too fond of and something that I predicted would occur. But yeah, overall, The Vampire Armand is a decent book. It's a good book to pick up and if you want to understand the character a bit more. Also learn a bit more about the backstory of the world and whatnot, because there are a few other things that occurred after Memnoch the Devil that this does kind of intertwine it a little bit. And although I'm not fond of Memnoch the Devil, I understand and acknowledge its effects on the world of vampires as a whole. And at the very least, I respect the book for that degree of consistency, even though I still don't agree that Memnoch the Devil should exist at all. Alright, so that is my review for The Vampire Armand, the origin story of Armand from the Vampire Chronicles. I would love to hear what you think about this book in the comments below. If you want to read a written review of this book, I will have it on my Goodreads and Storygraph accounts, link in the description below. And with that, I would like to thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!